Welcome to the Hangout, an Australian climbing podcast where me, Tom, I am going to be your host over the journey of interviewing and speaking to Australian climbers and climbers climbing in Australia to help broaden their awareness and knowledge in the Australian climbing scene. I'm super excited to bring this to you. It's something that I've been working on for 8 months on the podcast, but I've had the idea for the Hangout and what the Hangout's going to turn into for the past 6 or 7 years. And it's so nice to finally have this, it's so nice to finally be able to bring this to you, which is what I would say is like phase one of the Hangout. And to me, it's, such an important phase because the goals with the podcast and with speaking to people is to bring the climbing community together through shared stories and connection and shared experiences to help deepen that connection and to help, unlock potential and grow and feel and learn and understand more about Australian climbing, the Australian climbing culture. And hopefully that just creates a stronger, more conscious climbing community. That's the goal. Because I had the concept for the Hangout after listening to another international podcast where I believe they had an Australian guest on, and it was just so nice to hear them speak about Australian climbing. It was so nice to hear them speak about like crags that I've been to. It's so nice to hear them speak about just like what it's like back down under. And there's just not enough of it. There's not enough of that long form conversation around Aussie climbing. And that's why we're here. That's why this is happening. That's why I've done this, because, the way that I like to digest is long form, and the way that I like to understand and learn is long form conversation or long form content. Social media is great, but sometimes it's really even hard to find the avenues, especially coming into climbing for the first time. It's really hard to actually know who's doing what, like who is the person, like the people at the peak of the sport, the Tom O'Hallorans, the Yosh, the Ryan's Glenicas, the people who are just like beastly and strong, or then the people who are like the old guards. And, it's really hard to understand the history and the culture and where Australian has come from and where it's going and where it's been. And I want this to be that. I want this to be the avenue that we can use together to help broaden our awareness and our knowledge. I really enjoy like the image of the campfire, being camping for so long, but now climbing, and after a hard day at the crag and coming back and lighting the fire and sitting around a campfire. Isn't that just some of the best conversations you've ever had? Isn't that just some of the best stories or the most laughs, or just like, it's just the best. There's something so special about it. So when I invite you to listen to these episodes, I invite you to sit around the campfire and share the space with myself and share the space with the guest or the guests and really feel a part of it and feel a part of the story and listen to what the people are saying, because there's so much in the past few episodes that I've recorded. I've started recording episodes in April and we're now in December. So I'm 13 episodes deep. I've had some great chats with some like super inspiring people, man. Like, it's so nice to start this thing and to bring this thing to life, but then to put myself on the trajectory of actually, what I want the podcast to be a place where people can learn about, Australian climbing history, or learn about the climbers in Australia. And this has been the biggest, like, it's just been so informative. I remember I thanked one of my guests because he put me on, he sent me back to school, like Punks in the Gym is such a historic climb, and I knew about it and I knew it was hard. And I don't even know if I knew it was the hardest climb in the world at a stage, hardest 8B plus. But going back and learning about it and going back and first ascensionists and bolters and the history behind it and everything around that. And that's just one climb. Like we've spoken about so much in Australia. We've spoken about international climbs as well, but I think it's super important to really bring it back home. I think it's really important to keep all the, maybe not all, that like the energy of Australian climbing in Australia. Like, how often do we hear about these big achievements and these hard climbs that are happening over overseas with international climbers, because that's where, you know, the boundaries are being pushed with V17s and V18s being climbed, and, you know, 9Cs being climbed, and first 9B plus female ascents being climbed. And I think that's super important for the sport, but really it doesn't mean so much to me as much as seeing, like, you know, another 9A or a 9A plus in Australia getting done, or someone like putting up a new line in Australia that's just like a beautiful, inviting line. I really enjoy hearing it. Brings it back home and it brings it to a space of awareness where I feel things are, you can drive motivation and you can drive inspiration a lot easier when it's something that you are more aware of. So if we're listening to a climber and they're speaking, we're listening to an Australian climber already, that brings it into our world. And that Australian climber is talking about this crag that maybe you've heard of, a crag that maybe you've been to, or a route that maybe you've been on and you thought that you couldn't do it. And they're like kind of giving the insights and teaching you that things can be possible and things are possible, and their process of breaking down barriers and their process of, you know, working through the shit and kind of overcoming it, all in Australian on Australian soil. I think it's super important for us to do that to help develop. And sharing stories, man, is, I think that's how we pass down everything. I think that's why long form has taken off over the past, you know, 10 years. Because sharing stories is how we pass down knowledge, and through knowledge we gain wisdom, and through wisdom we can apply and grow and create like the culture that we're trying to do. And I think long form media is the way to do it. I think conversations, open-hearted conversations, hard conversations sometimes, fun conversations, just conversations in general where it feels like people are just being purely themselves, and understanding who the person is incredibly important, especially just where we're at in the world. There's so much division, and, you know, if you're climbing, you're a climber, and like to hear your story is my intention. To hear what you have to say is my intention, no matter what. You know, we might not agree. Good. I want to hear that. I want to challenge my own thoughts and challenge my own beliefs, just like how a route or a boulder has challenged me in so many ways. I think this podcast already, with the episodes that I've recorded, it has done a little bit what climbing has done for me, in terms of when we're climbing, we're constantly facing these barriers, whether it's limiting beliefs or physical restrictions of strength or something like that. And you go back and you get stronger, or you get more like mentally strong as well, and you overcome and you find confidence and you can perform. And that thing that was so incredibly hard to do before is now just not that hard. And for me, sharing my voice was that. My sharing my voice, or sitting in front of a camera at the moment, speaking to literally no one, speaking to my lens, used to feel incredibly hard. It feels weird now, but it doesn't feel as hard, and I feel more confident to share my voice, because through the conversations that I've had in long form conversation, in long form, and just in long form speaking, I've been able to like almost filter out the faff, get rid of all the fucking shit in my mind, and be able to speak from my mind out of my mouth, and speak from feeling rather than thought. Because when I get stuck in thought, I get, I don't know, into the weeds, and I don't know, I try, and maybe I'm doing it now. But this podcast has begun to make me feel more confident, and make me feel like my voice is one that's okay to be heard. And if this platform becomes that for you, through either me sharing my voice and doing that, or having a guest come on and share their voice and share not just like their highlights of their climbing career, but like the shit that they've been through, I think it gives us rite of passage and right away to really, really feel that out, and to know that that's also possible. Like we can also share. We can also, our voices are so important, and to speak our truth is very important. And I'm learning that on this podcast. But climbing for me is the catalyst for a lot of change and a lot of growth, and how we can use it. So I'm hoping sharing those stories, I'm using a lot of like repeating words of sharing and connection and deepening and knowledge and all that. But I don't know, that's probably my limited vocabulary, which you'll understand over a few episodes. Maybe I'll read a dictionary or two before. But I think it's incredibly important for us to speak about our issues and speak about what it is that we're going through in the context of climbing as well, because that's what creates the relevance, and that's what's probably going to resonate with you, the listener. Because once we hear other people's stories, whether they're similar or dissimilar, I think it lifts a weight off everyone's shoulders, and it makes us feel a little bit less alone, and it makes us feel more connected. And my intention, even though it's my voice, not my physical body in your space right now, but it's so important to feel like you're a part of something, and to not feel alone, because you're not. And I'm hoping that this, metaphorical campfire makes you feel like all of us are sitting around the fire together, sharing the stories. And I can't wait to hear your story. I can't wait to have you on and to listen to you and, create space with you. I think it's going to be a really cool journey. But the Hangout, this is phase 1. I'm super excited to bring phase 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and like really allow this brand to grow and become what I envision it to be, because for me, it's important to do so. It's like it's something that's been sitting on my chest for so long, and to finally have, this me recording this and 13 episodes recorded and ready to go, and, a list of people who I want to speak to that I'm so excited to, because I know they're just like have these incredible things to share, because they're humans and we all have beautiful things to share. I'm hoping that this is going to be the thing. I'm excited. I can't wait to share more with the next episode 1, dropping with one of my good mates who coincidentally I met climbing. This is the journey, man. This is the process. Like climbing puts us in the process. This is the process and understanding how things run. Now, please be lenient, because this has been a massive learning process as well. Some of the audio throughout the episodes, pretty iffy, but as we get deeper into it, I hope to have better systems and to understand and learn about it more as I'm learning about technology and the equipment and, dealing with audio. And there's so much to this, but I'm excited, and I just truly hope that the content itself is what's really pulling us all together. So to be able to hear what the guests have to say is what keeps bringing you back, and the audio and the quality and the production's only going to get better. That's a promise. That is a promise. I'm really trying to make it, to make it maybe not the best, but really, really, really good. So thank you for listening. If you are listening to episode 0, even if you're not, like the gratitude and the appreciation for listening to episodes and sharing episodes and speaking about it and helping this beautiful sport lifestyle grow is incredible. It's so incredible. I thank you all so much. Prepare for episode 1 coming out hopefully in under a week's time.
Basically, rock climbing became a way